Welcome. Today's topic is something that, for many INFJs, and also for other sensitive personality types, can become a real daily struggle. How to communicate your emotions without getting exhausted in the process. Expressing what we feel can be difficult because fears, doubts, and self-criticism often show up. But what happens when we constantly keep things to ourselves? And more importantly, how can we express what we carry inside in a way that's clear, honest, and doesn't leave us strained? Before we begin, let me remind you that we post weekly videos here. So if you're new, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. It's very important that when we face an inner conflict, we put it on the table and talk about it with respect. We should never keep everything bottled up inside. Many studies confirm that suppressing emotions can be harmful in the long run. That's why the very first step toward healing is to face the fear of expressing ourselves. Why INFJs struggle to communicate their emotions. Expressing emotions should be something natural, right? But for INFJs, it doesn't always work that way. First, there's the fear of judgment. We often worry that our words will be misunderstood, that people will see us as too sensitive, or even criticize us for feeling too much. Second, INFJs have a tendency to put others before themselves. It's common to think, I don't want to cause discomfort, so I'll just stay quiet. And that's how we end up holding in emotions that actually needed to come out. Third, there's our deep internal processing style. We need time to sort out what we're feeling before putting it into words. And by the time we're ready to talk, we might already be exhausted from overthinking. And lastly, something very characteristic of INFJs, over-explaining. We want to give so much context, clarify every detail, justify each emotion that we end up talking too much and leaving the conversation drained. Does this sound familiar? What happens when we don't communicate what we feel? When we choose to stay quiet, it may seem like we're choosing peace. But in reality, what we're doing is keeping the conflict inside ourselves. And that has consequences. Built-up stress, silent resentment toward others, shallow relationships where we never show who we truly are, and most painfully, disconnection from ourselves. Every time an INFJ stays silent to protect the peace, they're actually sacrificing their own inner peace. And sooner or later, that becomes obvious. Strategies to communicate emotions without exhaustion. Now, let's go into the most important part. How to do this in a practical way. 1. Internal preparation. Before speaking, take a moment to ask yourself, what am I really feeling? You can write it down in a journal, record a private voice note, or simply sit quietly for a few minutes. The goal is to name the emotion clearly. For example, instead of, I feel weird, like something's bothering me, say, I'm frustrated because I felt left out yesterday. When you know exactly what you want to express, you've already cut the exhaustion in half. 2. Choosing the right time and channel. Not every conversation has to be immediate, and not every conversation has to happen face-to-face. You can choose to write a message if speaking directly feels overwhelming. You can also ask for time. Phrases like, I need a few minutes to gather my thoughts, then we can talk. I do want to talk about this, but I'd prefer to do it later when I'm calmer. These are healthy ways of setting boundaries. 3. Clear and concise communication. One of the biggest drains for INFJs is the tendency to over-explain. Example, instead of, "I know maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't know if it makes sense. Maybe I'm just tired, but anyway, what's happening is that I feel a bit sad because yesterday." Say, "I felt sad because I didn't feel heard yesterday." It's direct, clear, and enough. 4. Healthy boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. An INFJ without boundaries turns into someone tired, resentful, and silent. Here are some phrases to practice. "I understand what you're saying, but I need space to process it." "I'd rather not talk about this right now." "I can listen to you, but I also need to share how I'm feeling." 5. Self-care after the conversation. Talking about emotions takes energy, even if the conversation goes well. That's why it's so important to plan something that will recharge you afterward. Listen to calming music. Take a walk alone. Read or meditate. Even take a nap. Taking care of yourself after speaking is just as important as the conversation itself. Before we continue, I want to share something that can really help you deepen your self-understanding. If you've ever wondered, am I really an INFJ? Or simply want to understand your personality better, I highly recommend trying the Truity personality test. It's incredibly accurate, easy to take, and gives you a detailed analysis of your strengths, vulnerabilities, and how you relate to others. It can also open new perspectives on why you react the way you do in moments of stress or emotional exhaustion. I've left the link in the description so you can check it out. It's a super valuable tool if you want to grow in your personal development and manage your emotions in a more conscious way. Now, let's get back to today's video. How to deal with others' reactions. Something we need to accept is this: we can't control how others react. No matter how carefully we choose our words, no matter how thoughtfully we express ourselves, each person will respond based on their own experiences, emotions, and expectations. And that's okay. Some people will understand you immediately. They might listen with empathy, nod in agreement, or offer support. Others, however, might react with confusion, frustration, or even anger. And that's not a reflection of your worth or the validity of your feelings. It simply reflects where they are emotionally or mentally in that moment. If someone responds with anger, it can feel upsetting or even discouraging. But remember, their reaction is about them, not about you. You can calmly respond with something like, "I understand this upsets you, but I needed to express it." This simple statement acknowledges their feelings while staying true to your own. It shows that you respect both yourself and the other person without taking responsibility for their emotions. It's also helpful to give yourself permission to take a step back if needed. Sometimes, the best way to deal with someone's strong reaction is not to argue or justify yourself further, but to allow space for both of you to process. You might say, "Let's take a moment. I want us to understand each other, but I also need some space to stay grounded." Your job isn't to make everyone comfortable with what you say. You don't have to tailor your words to avoid conflict at the cost of your own truth. Your job is to be honest and respectful with yourself. Expressing your thoughts and feelings is not about controlling others. It's about maintaining your integrity and inner peace. Over time, you'll notice that some relationships grow stronger because of your honesty, while others may drift apart. Both outcomes are okay. What matters is that you are showing up authentically, honoring your own voice, and treating others with respect, even when they struggle to understand you. Remember, expressing yourself is a skill, not a burden. It's a practice in balancing empathy for others with care for yourself. And every time you do it, you strengthen your ability to communicate clearly, calmly, and confidently, no matter how others react. The benefits of authentic communication. At first it might feel scary, but once you start practicing, many benefits appear. Deeper and more authentic relationships. Less anxiety from constantly acting or pretending. Greater self-respect. And a sense of lightness, because you're no longer carrying everything alone. In short, expressing your emotions doesn't drain you. It gives you energy back because you're no longer holding on to that weight inside. Conclusion and closing. Today we explored why INFJs often feel exhausted when expressing their emotions, what happens when we keep things bottled up, and most importantly, what strategies you can use to speak with more clarity, with healthier boundaries, and with less emotional drain. The key is threefold. Prepare what you want to say. Express it clearly and briefly. Take care of yourself afterward. Remember this. Speaking up is an act of courage and of self-love. Now I want to ask you, which of these strategies will you try next time you need to express how you feel? Leave it in the comments. I'd love to read your thoughts and see what resonates with you. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and share it with someone who might need it. I'll see you in the next episode of Psych IQ.